An introduction about you, who you are, and what do you do, sir?
Okay, Dr. TVRAMACHANDRA. I am a coordinator, Energy and Wetland Research Group at Indian Institute of Science. I work in the area of ecology, biodiversity, aquatic ecology, environmental impact assessment. Also, I use the tools like GIS and remote sensing along with artificial intelligence and machine learning to do the spatial analysis.
If you have to give the same introduction in 2 lines, how would you? What?
Dr. TVRAMACHANDRA, coordinator, Energy and Wetland Research Group at Indian Institute of Science, work in the area of energy and environment.
Sir, my first question to you, sir. Uh, why is Bangalore you decide, sir, what is the question? Why is Bangalore having a water crisis, or is it really having a water crisis? What is the question?
See, the Bangalore is undergoing a severe water crisis. It's a consequence of the unplanned, irresponsible urbanization that has taken place in the city over the last 5 decades. The city landscape has to be livable. But when you are looking at more and more about increasing the GDP of the region, naturally the city landscape, which was porous, will become a paved surface with buildings, etc. When the city landscape moves from the porous status to the paved surface, groundwater recharge will not happen. The city of Bangalore depends on groundwater resources for about 40 to 45%. Remaining 55 to 60% is met by Kaveri. So now insufficient groundwater recharge is happening, coupled with over exploitation of the groundwater resource. Because of the water mafia and real estate mafia, we are losing the groundwater. So it is being abused, misused by this section of the society. So the because of the imbalance in the thing, one is the resource augmentation, second is the over exploitation has crippled the system with a severe scarcity of resources in the city.
So, sir, you said it's a problem that we're facing for the last 5 decades, something that started in the last 5 decades. So, sir, if we have to go point by point, what has changed in the last 5 decades, be it the green cover wise, our area wise, our population wise, our underground water level wise? Sir, if you could point that out specifically, like in this manner, what would it
See,
be, sir?
for any region to be livable, we should do the planning. Planning should ensure that we do not cross the carrying capacity threshold. Carrying capacity study should have been done for a major cities in our country before we opt for an intense urbanization in the region. Now, when we look at the landscape of Bangalore, in today the spatial extent is about 740 square kilometer. In 740 square kilometer area, way back in 1500 to 1800, we had 1452 water bodies and 80% green cover. The historical records reveal the temperature of 14 to 17 degrees Celsius in the May month, that is the summer month during that time period. And for a few days in December, the temperature was 0 degrees Celsius. And we used to grow apples in a place called Palace Orchard, closer to Indian Institute of Science. And today, we have the number of water bodies has come down to 193 water bodies, and the green cover has come down less than 3%. See, when we lose these the vegetation and the water body, the city, the porous, the landscape, the status changes. That is what has happened. And also these entities, the ecological entities, help in moderating the microclimate because they act as the heat sink. Now, at one end, we have lost the resources. At the other end, we have also made the city vulnerable with the increasing temperature. Now, when we look at the last 5 decades, way back in 1973, the city landscape had 68% green cover and less than 8% was under paved surfaces such as building, etc. And today, if you look at the landscape, it's about 86% is the paved surface and less than 4% is the vegetation cover or the tree cover. And the number of water bodies in the city is 193. And our study on lakes of Bangalore clearly shows that out of 193 water bodies, 98% are fed with the untreated sewage or the industrial effluent, and 92% of the lakes are the encroached by the real estate mafia. So now, when we look at the natural resources, because of the lack of prudent management, has affected the livable status of the region. When you look at the policy making, or when you look at any system to be stable, the four pillars of democracy should they work in tandem. The judiciary, then the media, then the executive mechanism should work in tandem. But unfortunately, when the legislative wing of our system start interfering in the executive mechanism, you will see the failure in the implementation of the infrastructure project and the basic communities. So I think that meddling should have been stopped in our country, so that the executive mechanism could have worked efficiently without any interference. And the second thing that would have happened is we should have made the bureaucracy accountable. For that, transparency in administration should have been there. Today we have too many parastate agencies, lack of coordination. Because of lack of coordination, we saw the haphazard growth that has happened in the region. With the paid surface being less than 8% way back in 73 has shooted up to 86% today. When the landscape become more and more paved, the groundwater recharge doesn't happen, and the city temperature also changes. The city temperature, which was about 19 degrees in 90s, became 21 degrees in 2000, and 28 degree or 29 degrees Celsius in 2010. Today it's about 35 to 39 degrees Celsius, which shows that increasing temperature in the region. Increasing temperature also has the other cascaded effect, like the vector-borne diseases. The more and more vector-borne diseases will be there, and the zoonotic diseases. These are the diseases that come from the animal will be the more prevalent in the region. So that's why the issues like dengue, chikungunya, and other this one we notice in the city.
So, sir, but then there are these activists who say that it's not a Bangalore problem, it's just some specific parts of Bangalore that have a problem because of the urbanization that you've said. It's not Bangalore that has changed.
Well, I do not. I speak from the science point of view. Irresponsible decision making and irresponsible section of the society will not solve the problem of the city. Irresponsible behavior will only aggravate the situation, which means that our next generation is going to pay the heavy price because of our irresponsible decision making. Article 21 of the constitution ensures the right to life for everyone. The next generation, with the current trend of growth, will not have the water or the air or the environment. They will be deprived of that. We should not reach that situation. We should move towards, at least we should wake up now. Let us stop giving excuses. Let us wake up and plan the city. The first and foremost thing we need to do is, the 86% increase in paid surface in a region of 740 square kilometer clearly shows that the growth has become haphazard and unrealistic. We need to reverse the growth. That my suggestion is to decongest the city. That means we need to shift the major installations to the other towns or the other taluks and the district headquarters. When we do that, we will also be reversing the migration. Today, the youth from rural area are migrating to the cities. In the process, what's happening? At home, the elderly couples are staying. They could not practice the agriculture. Whereas if I shift the industries and major institutes to the taluk or the district headquarters, the youth can work during the weekdays in the industry or institution, and the weekend they can do the farming. In a country like ours, where 65% is agrarian, this is the model to be replicated. If you want to see where this model is working, let us go to the Tamil Nadu. Tanjavur, Kumbakonam, Tiruvallur, Triangular Junction. The youth from the surrounding area come to the town, they work and they go back during the weekdays. In the process, these towns, Tanjavur, Kumbakonam, is not densified. And the advantage is because the youth are at the home, they practice the farming during the weekend. That model it has to be the replicated throughout the country. For that model to be successful, we need to improve the connectivity. You need to improve the basic amenities and the infrastructure in the region. Let us now focus more on the taluk headquarters and the towns, the tier 2, tier 3 towns in the state, so that we can reverse the migration. When we reverse the migration, there is a holistic growth happens in the state and in the country. This is what is called cluster based development. This is not a new idea. This has been mooted by the Mahatma Gandhiji. He talked about Surajya or Swarajya, which means decentralized management of natural resources and to give the job and education to the youth in their hometown than they moving to the other towns in the search of the job or for education. So let us move the idea of the cluster-based development, make the entire country prosperous. There's no point in the making the cities like Bangalore with too many industries there. In the name of GDP, we have killed the city. We have made the city unlivable. See, the air quality is poor, the water quality is very bad in the city. That is where the people are paying the heavy price. Our water bodies are getting contaminated. 98% of our water bodies are contaminated with the untreated sewage and industrial effluent, and this water is being used for growing the vegetables. When we did the study of the vegetable samples and the fish sample in the lake, which we collected, and we analyzed the physicochemical and the heavy metal analysis, we were surprised to see the heavy metal in the vegetables like pudina, spinach, radish, etc., and also in the fish. This also has a cascaded effect on the health of the people. The higher chances of cancer and kidney failure is the reason for the heavy metal getting into our food chain. Heavy metal getting into our food chain has made the Bangalore number one as far the cancer instances are concerned. And if you look at the kidney failure, which was 1 in 1 lakh about the 12 years back, today is 1 in 5,000. Almost every ward has a dialysis unit. When the politician or decision maker put the one page advertisement showing the dialysis unit is being inaugurated by him, he is also portraying that particular ward has become unhealthy. These are the unfortunate thing. We should not allow this kind of illogical thing happening in our system.
Sir, but coming back to the water part of it, sir, let's go specifically to each problem, sir. Now, the Deputy Chief Minister comes out and says that 7,000 borewells have died in the city. I know there are 14,000 borewells, out of which 7,000 borewells have died in the city. How worrisome is that number? Or are there more borewells that we have no idea about that have dried up?
See, when somebody makes a statement saying that the groundwater table is depleting, which means that section of the society have mismanaged the city or the state. Over the last 7 decades, in the name of development, we have removed the water bodies, we have removed the vegetation cover. There has been 1,055% increase in concrete area. We have lost 88% vegetation cover and 79% of the water bodies. Now, when you remove the water body, the impact is on the groundwater. See, my study shows that when the lakes were there, people were getting the water, the groundwater at the height, groundwater table is less than 100 or 150 feet. After removing the lake, in 5 or 6 years, the groundwater table went down to 600 feet. And today, after 22 years, people have gone down to 1,800 feet. That there is no water in the ground. This is quite worrying. This is happening mainly because of the too much of waves of phase in the landscape. The groundwater recharge is not happening, coupled with over exploitation. The building mafia or the real estate mafia are over exploiting the groundwater. They have no right to dig a borewell in the construction site. We should have made them to use the waste treated wastewater to use for the construction activity. We should make them the pay for the kind of the mistake they have committed over a period of time. We should give a surprise visit to all these places, and the borewell is functioning, we should penalize them. At the same time, we should close that borewell, and we should not allow that water being used for the construction activities.
Sir, one is groundwater, like you explained how we're depleting it. What are the ways in which we can refill it? Is there, because we have an 80% cover of concrete around us? I think IISC is the only building I see right now with a lot of garden area. But we don't have anywhere that the water can go. What are the solutions for
See,
it?
one of the thing is that's where the science comes to the picture. You know, let us look at the rejuvenation of the lake. Okay, when you rejuvenate the lake, the groundwater recharge happens. For example, Sarki Lake was rejuvenated about 3 years back. Within a year of rejuvenation, groundwater table improved by 320 feet. And today, after 3 years, when you visit Saraki Lake, there is enough water in the lake and surrounding area, the bore wells have good groundwater table. Okay. So, and because of the good water in the Saraki Lake catchment, temperature in the region is at least 2 to 3 degrees Celsius lower than the surrounding because of the prevailing moisture. Because of that, you see the good number of diversity of birds and the insects in the region. So now that is the model to be replicated in the city of Bangalore. Now, when you look at the rainfall, the city landscape receives the rainfall of 700 to 850 millimeter annually. If we harvest this rainwater, we have 15 TMC of rainwater. The city requires 18 TMC of water. That means 70% of the water required for Bangalorean is already available in the form of rainwater. The best option is to harvest the rainwater. There are two options to harvest the rainwater. The first one is through the rooftop harvesting, so that individual houses will have additional 4 to 5 months of water. There are instances, some of my colleagues who are staying in Basveshwar Nagar have the using only the rainwater, not dependent on BWSS at all. They do not even have the BWSSP connection at home. For example, Shokumar, who talks about rainwater harvesting, he does not use the BWSSP or the Kaveri water. These are the model to be replicated in every household. And the second thing is the best option at community level. You should rejuvenate the lake and retain the rainwater in the lake. When we rejuvenate the lake, as it happened in the case of Saraki Lake, the groundwater table improves. And the third option is the wastewater treatment or reuse of wastewater. The city uses 18 TMC of the 18 TMC of water. That means we generate 18 TMC of wastewater. If we treat that wastewater, you have 16 TMC of treated water, treated wastewater. Now, how do you treat that? There are three levels of treatment: primary, secondary, tertiary treatment. Primary treatment will remove the large particle, secondary treatment will remove the chemical ion, while the tertiary treatment will remove the nutrient. Now, since the sewage has got nutrient, since we all eat protein, N gets into the system. Similarly, we wash cloth with detergent which has a phosphorus. So because of N and P presence in the sewage, we need to have tertiary treatment. Now, unfortunately, tertiary treatment is expensive in terms of electricity and labor. That's why the most of the places the government goes for the secondary treatment plant. Now, if you want to see the success story of the wastewater treatment, let us go to the Jaipur Lake. Jaipur Lake, based on my studies in 2005, I showed that the Jakur Lake and surrounding area, the borewells, there were 25 borewells were there, and all of them had nitrate. Nitrate is a carcinogen which introduces cancer. Nitrate gets into the borewell because we are letting the untreated sewage into the lake with the nitrogen in that. So now the moment it moves towards the groundwater, the nitrate it forms the nitrate. Then I pushed the government to rejuvenate the lake. Then the committee was constituted. I was a member of the committee, and Yellappa Reddy was the chairman of the committee. At the time, government said that they will give the money to treat the wastewater, but only to the secondary treatment level. So, but our problem of nitrate will not get solved with the secondary treatment option. So, what I did is I integrated constructed wetland and algal pond along with the secondary treatment plant. When the water passes through from the secondary treatment plant via the constructed wetland and algal pond, the about 85 to 90% removal of the nutrient and heavy metal happens. That last 12 years my students have monitored the Jakur Lake, and today if you look at, there are 300 wells are there in the vicinity, and when you analyze the well water and also lake water, none of them have the nitrate. That means that is the model to be replicated throughout the city in all wards. Now, if we do that, you will also provide the job to the youth. This is based on the nature-based solution. You are just optimizing the nature-based principle of using conserved wetland and algal pond to remove the N and P. Okay, and when you remove the nutrient, the water is drinkable. It attains the nutrient, the tertiary treatment level. Now, when we deploy this model throughout the city in all the wards, when we treat 18 TMC of wastewater, you will get a 16 TMC of treated water, 15 TMC because of the rainwater harvesting, 16 TMC because of the wastewater treatment. You have 31 TMC of water. 31 TMC is the surplus the situation, and is a sustainable solution. That is where our focus should be on decentralized management of our water bodies which are available at disaggregated level. Almost all wards have one lake. Let us rejuvenate the lake, retain the rainwater, and also wastewater treated. Let us leave it into the lake. We will have a surplus situation. We should not think about illogical projects like Make a Dam.
I will come to that also, sir. But before that, I wanted to ask you do you think this problem that we're talking about is a Bangalore problem, or it's a problem that most of the South Indian cities are facing? Is it the South Indian problem that we're facing, that the water is depleting, we do not have our resources in the right place?
Well, this problem, irrespective of the region or the religion, is there throughout the globe. Wherever irresponsible behavior of removing the green cover or the ecosystem or the water bodies, we see this problem. In the name of GDP, to enhance the GDP, we opted the development which does not account the degradation of the environment in the GDP. GDP is an erroneous metric. Gross domestic product is an erroneous metric which does not take into account the degradation cost of the ecosystem. If we include that, if we incorporate the degradation cost, then the GDP becomes the green GDP or the total supply ecosystem value. That is what we should opt for, and there is a thinking in that direction. The United Nations and many countries across the globe, we all have got together to do the natural capital accounting and valuation of the ecosystem services. When you do the valuation of the ecosystem services, we'll also know the worth of the ecosystem if it is in a pristine state. For example, my study in Jakkur and Rachinalli Lake shows it provides us the fish, the fodder, and the water to an extent of 10,500 rupees per hectare per day. When we pollute the lake, the worth of the lake come down to 20 rupees per day per hectare. Now, who are the people who are benefited by this 10,500 rupees per hectare per day? These are the fishermen, washermen, farmers, etc. Now that section of the society become vulnerable when we pollute the lake. So that's where, when we manage the water bodies at decentralized level, we are giving life to and livelihood to the farmers and dependent community. We should do it on priority. Let us stop the following the erroneous metrics of GDP. Let us make our the ecosystem healthy so that happiness is there in everyone's home, not in few homes.
So, but do you? There are also reasons such as delayed monsoons. It's not always the economics of it, is what people say. We didn't get rains last time. No, that rain has created this problem. Is it a clickbait solution that we look at, or clickbait problems we look at, or we don't look at the larger picture?
No, delayed monsoon or the erratic rainfall. Who is responsible for this? It is the irresponsible decision makers are responsible for that. In the name of development, we have enhanced the greenhouse gas footprint. When my study shows that we have increased the emission from the industry sector and also from the forest. When the land is degraded and deforestation is done, earlier when forests were there, it was sequestering the carbon, it was removing the carbon from the atmosphere. But when we degrade the land, the carbon that is the trap in the system in the soil get released to the environment. We have aggravated the problem by enhancing the greenhouse gas footprint. The consequence of that is the global warming. The with the warming of the earth, we have changes in climate. The erroneous rainfall or the high intensity rainfall, these are all the indication of the mismanagement of the ecosystem or the earth. As all of us have only one earth, whatever the impact we do, it have the cascaded effect throughout the globe. So that's where the responsibility is on everyone's shoulder, every citizen, global citizen's shoulder, that let us minimize the mismanagement of the mother earth.
Sir, if you have to give a comparison, sir, from the time when you were born in Bangalore, sir,
Yes,
what was Bangalore before and what has Bangalore become now, according to you?
the city which was a livable city.
No, give me your personal perspective. I don't want the
Yes,
city.
I'm talking about it. The city was a livable city. I had a playground. I could swim in the lake, and water was there in the tap all the time. Okay, the water was there in the well. Earlier the elders have planned the city. For example, if you look at in a site of in a plot of about 30 by 108, in the front you used to have the building, whereas the back side is the conservancy road. You used to have a well in the plot, and also the tree. Every plot used to have at least 30 to 40% green cover. Today, in the name of development and in the name of handing, we have handed over the city to the real estate mafia. You know, if you look at the city was well planned. Look at the wards like the Jainagar, Gandhi Bazaar, Pasangudi. These are all examples of planned the interventions in the region so that the region was livable. But the 1990, with the globalization, with the market force entering the scenario, we saw that handing over the city to the mafias. Today we have real estate mafia, we have water mafia, the waste mafia. Our life is choked with these mafias.
Sir, Kaveri is the main source of our water here, sir. How much water does the city needs on a daily basis, and how much shortage does it have?
See, one is when you look at the Kaveri, this one. Look at the landscape, how we have managed in the Kaveri basin. Over the last 6 decades, from 1965 to today, there has been a 45% decline in the forest cover in the Kaveri catchment. Today, forest cover in the Kaveri catchment is less than 18%. As per the norm, we should have had at least 33% green cover. But what we have done in the name of development, we have removed the green cover. My study, we have done the detailed ecological and hydrological investigation in the river basins in the Western Ghats. My study shows when the watershed is covered with a native species forest, the with a spatial extent more than 55 to 60%, the groundwater recharge happens or the infiltration happen to an extent of 55 to 60%. That means 55 to 60% of the rainfall get infiltrated, and that is the water available during the post monsoon. When we degrade the catchment with a vegetation cover less than 30%, only 25 to 30% recharge of the groundwater happens. Now the implication of that, wherever the forest covers are there of native species, my study shows that the water is available throughout the year, 12 months. Wherever we have degraded catchment, the water is available 4 to 6 months. Then now let us look at the livelihood aspect of the people in that region. Because the water is available in the region, wherever the forests are there of the native species, people can grow multiple crop or a cash crop. Where we have degraded, water is available only for 4 to 6 months. They can grow only one crop. Now, when you look at the revenue from the farming, farmers get 1,54,000 rupees per acre per year in the vicinity of forest with native species. While in the vicinity of the degraded landscape, they get 32,000 rupees per acre per year. Now, other important aspect we studied, our study has brought out is the yield of the crop. Wherever forests are there, of native species, the moisture content in the ecosystem is high. Because of the moisture content, there is a high number of diversity of insects, the pollinators. When pollinators are abundant and diverse, pollination become efficient. When pollination become efficient, yield of the crop is high. For example, in the vicinity of the forest, yield of the crop, paddy crop, is about 12 to 18 quintal per acre. Whereas in the degraded landscape, the people struggle to get 6 to 8 quintal per acre. Now the government of India, the Prime Minister in particular, wants to double the income of the farmer. Our country, 65% is agrarian. I would say that just maintaining the ecosystem integrity, with a native species forest, you will have the development, you will have prosperity in everybody's home with a higher yield of crop and multiple crop throughout the year. That is the model to be replicated throughout the country. So maintaining the ecosystem integrity entails the maintaining the
So,
physical and chemical integrity so that we'll also have the biological integrity in
so
the system.
basically saying that if the encatchment area of Kaveri is catered to and it is safeguarded, then Kaveri will automatically have a lot of water.
Well, uh, I would say that any river basin, let us not be over this one with Kaveri. There are other rivers also in Karnataka. Every river basin, we should have a water based a watershed based management approach, which involves both ecological and engineering intervention. We were in the forefront way back in 80s when I was quite young. During the one of the political regime, we were in the forefront, and the people from other countries used to visit us to look at the watershed program that was implemented in the place like Kalambella and the other places in Karnataka. But unfortunately, today, in the name of development, we have killed the watershed. In the process, we have lost the water and we have lost the food for the people. When water security is there, there is a food security. If you look at Western Ghats, which extend from Kerala to Gujarat, ensures the water security. Because of water security, there is a food security in the peninsular India. But in the name of development, we are degrading the Western Ghats. Kaveri originates in the Western Ghats.
But in the name of development, we are also coming up with a project called Mekadatu, about which you said that we should not come up with a third class project like this. Now, the Deputy Chief Minister is pushing for it, saying that this is the future for Bangalore. But a lot of activists have shown their concerns with this. What is the biggest problem with the Mekadatu?
See, this is where I strongly feel we need people who rule us with a vision. But today's rulers have the mission to loot the resources, natural resources. Now let's look at the Mekedatu project. As per the statistics, Mekedatu project is going to submerge 5,000 hectares of forest in the region. Look at the hydrological services that is provided by the 5,000 hectare forest, which has been doing the silent job of recharging the groundwater to a tune of about 100 TMC in a year. Now, my question to the whoever has proposed this illogical, irresponsible project: why do you want to construct a concrete dam to store 65 TMC when my forests have been storing 100 TMC without any the liability to the state exchequer? The second thing, look at the kind of the services provided by the forest ecosystem. You get timber, you get fuel, non-timber forest produce, the honey, etc., and ecosystem services like carbon sequestration. Now, these forests sequester the carbon that is emitted by the city. Now, if you are removing that, we are also losing the carbon sequestration capability of the system. Now, when you quantify all these services, ecosystem services, it amounts to about 100 billion rupees worth of the forest. You are the investing 2,000 crore, that means 20 billion rupees to loot 100 billion rupees worth of forest. That is where the science has to get into the policy making. Science has to get into the decision making, and irresponsible emotional statement by the irresponsible people, we should put an end to that.
Sir, now this question I want you to answer both in a positive term first and then negative term. Now, if the things that you've said, if these solutions are put into picture, what would the future of Bangalore look like in a positive manner? What would change in Bangalore? How would Bangalore look if the solutions that you've said would be implemented?
See, my prescription is that one is, let us plan the city properly. Let us do the carrying capacity assessment of the city. Till that, let us stop all the major projects in the city. Okay, that is the first thing. Second thing is, let us shift the major installation from the city to the rural areas, the towns and the taluk headquarters, etc. In the process, the city will not be dense. Then let us rejuvenate the lake, retain the rainwater in the lake. The fourth is, let us treat the wastewater. Use the reuse the wastewater, treated wastewater, so that you have water. And when you have water and greenery in your backyard, you will have prosperity. See, every ward should have a mini forest of 2 hectares. Mini forest of native species will also help in the groundwater recharge. My experiments, with mini forest in various parts of Karnataka shows that when in a region which was infested with the invasive seeds, the plant species like Parthenium, you know, the groundwater table was 150 to 200 feet. And after 20 years, today when you go to the region where the mini forest with the native species are planted, you have groundwater at 10 to 15 feet. Now, for example, at Indian Institute of Science, I've created a mini forest in a 2 hectares area. 49 native species, 500 saplings were planted in 90. Groundwater table at that time was 100 feet. Today I have water 10 to 15 feet. This is in Bangalore. I also created lake in the campus. It is an experimental lab for my student. Not only that, it has a otter. Otter indicates the diversity of the organism because it feeds a lot of fish and algae. So we can create the system and let us give the healthy planet to our children.
But what you told me is the prescription.
Yeah.
Now, give me, like you said, we have to leave a healthy planet for the city. Give me that vision of how healthy will the planet be if that prescription is this thing.
See,
What
well,
would our outlook be? Will we have more trees? Will we have greenery? Will we have
no,
water?
no. See,
So give me that picture.
no, no. One is today we have 193 lakes in the city. When we rejuvenate the lakes and retain the rainwater, you will meet the 40% of the Bangalore water demand in a decentralized way. Okay. Second thing is when you have mini forest in each ward, your groundwater recharge will happen. Coupled with there is an option for recreation, the recreation for elders, recreation for the children, which is very important. Today's children are losing the recreation, the service of the ecosystem. They are more and more into the apartment level. If you study the behavior aspect of the children, they have become aggressive because of that. The healthy children or healthy youth is an asset to the nation. When you provide such environment, we will have the sensible youth who will be responsible and who will be an asset to the nation, unlike the current generation.
Now, sir, same question, sir. If we do not use the prescription that you are giving, if we do not implement the way, if we do not take care of the nature, what would then our future look like? What the negative impact of that? What would we lose out of?
See, that is where we should read the history books. Look at the Easter Island. People went on expanding the island thinking that land is available. One fine day, people have to vacate the island because of the water scarcity. Last leg of Vijayanagara kingdom failed because of the water scarcity. In the name of development, you made Bangalore, Bengaluru, Bruhat Bengaluru, then Bruhat Bengaluru. That means you are killing the system. We all have to vacate the city. So let us take the lessons from the history book and manage the city before it is too late. Let us stop talking irresponsibly. Let us think they implement the policy which are validated by science. So then that will give the sustainable solution for the current problem in the city.
Thank you so much. Their own way of living. But we also depend on the bureaucracy to make sure that the public is aware of how bad is the bureaucracy when it comes to handling water crisis, handling issues like this.
See, in a democracy, there has to be a participation by all stakeholders. When all stakeholders take active part, you will see the success, as we noticed in the case of Sariki Lake or a Jakkur Lake. Sariki Lake, because of the local residents, they were able to remove the encroachment. They were able to convince the bureaucracy and get the rejuvenation done. They were able to convince the decision makers and get what they want. Nature-based principle implemented in the rejuvenation of Sarki Lake. The same thing happened in 2010 when we rejuvenated the Jakur and the Rachanali Lake. My suggestion is, all wings of democracy, the judiciary, the legislative and executive mechanism, and the media. Let us work in tandem for the wealth, for protecting the wealth of the region for the next generation. Let us prudently manage the thing. See, prudent management of natural resources requires transparency in administration and accountability. Lack of accountability and transparency in the system, in the current bureaucracy, is the root cause of the problem. Say, for example, when the flooding happens in the region, you will see that without even understanding the causal factor of the flooding, we come with a remedial measure which suits the bureaucrats. See, the lakes in Bangalore are interconnected. If we ensure the interconnectivity among the lake, you would have solved the flooding. Interconnectivity of the lakes are lost because of the encroachment of the stormwater drain as well as the lake bed. We should, without any mercy, remove the encroachers, however powerful they are, however whichever status they are there, even if they are film heroes or politicians, we should remove the encroachment at any cost. But Every time when flooding happens, the government releases the substantial amount of the money. And then BBMP, the bureaucrats, come with the ad hoc measure of remodeling the drain. When I look at the remodeling of the drain, it is nothing but siphoning the money. For example, the drain which was between Balandur and Agaram, historical record shows that the width of the drain is about 60 to 80 meter. Today, in the name of remodeling, it is reduced to 18.5 to 20 meter. And the second thing is, when they narrow the drain, they also have a understanding with the neighboring real estate mafia. Every kilometer of remodeling, the exchequer loses 8 crore rupees. you know that is where, to siphon off the large amount of money, the bureaucracy comes up with this remodeling. In the process of remodeling, they are concretizing the bed of the stormwater drain or rajakalve, which is against the nature principle. Nature principle says that hydrological, the drain should do the groundwater recharge. We are losing that with the concretization. Second thing is narrowing the drain will also reduce the capability of the drain to carry the water. During the high intensity rainfall, there's a large amount of the water. Now, consequence of narrowing the drain in the Agaram and Belandur lake is the flooding in Koramangala. When the flooding happened, when people started protesting or agitated, what did BBMP came up with? They put one more drain parallel to this. Now, there is a three levels of benefit to the decision maker. First is concretization. Then second is when they narrowed the drain, they had understanding with the real estate mafia in the neighborhood. Third is putting a new drain. Again, additional the funds being misused. These are the illogical things. This all is happening because of lack of transparency and accountability in the system. I strongly advocate. Forest department is supposed to protect our forest. If the degradation is happening, the forest officer, respective forest officer, should be held responsible. So is the case of PBMP engineer for mismanaging the city landscape. When we do that, when we bring transparency and remove the fragmented governance and accountability of the bureaucrat, you will see the prosperity in everybody's home, not just select few.
Thank you so much, sir. I think this was great.